Hi, thank you for joining me for the second session in our series, Puberty Education. I'm Wendy Sellers, a registered nurse and a certified sexuality educator. I'm also the author of Puberty, the Wonder Years. In this session, we're going to talk about 6 classroom management tips. Classroom management is all about student engagement. An engaged student is unlikely to become a challenge. On the other hand, active engagement and active learning are not always quiet and orderly. So here's the first of our 6 tips. Keep the student's attention. Speak only when you have quiet and attention. You cannot outshout a classroom full of students. Also, plan a seating configuration that cuts down on chatty students talking to each other. Walk near students to regain their attention if they wander, because proximity helps them to pay attention. And use the students' names even when you're not calling on them, because we all perk up and pay attention when we hear our name mentioned. Ask how the teaching, what they're learning, will be relevant in their world and how they will apply it. You can prepare quick writes. You can provide choices so students have choice in how they learn. And use a blend of learning mediums and teaching strategies, not just the ones that you're most comfortable with. Provide frequent movement breaks, and that will also help students pay attention when it's time to. Tip 2, deepen discussion. Carefully construct your discussion questions by avoiding questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no answer, unless you're doing a take a stand activity, in which case it would be a choice 1 or choice 2. Also, create questions that promote critical thinking, not just rote memorization. Create questions that help students apply what they've just learned to real life. And create questions that allow multiple acceptable answers, not just a single right answer. Process the responses after you've heard several answers from students. It's also important to allow think time when you ask a discussion question. Tell the students to take 10 to 20 seconds to think before they speak or raise a hand, and then ask for their responses. Also, you can have them answer to their elbow partner. Turn to the person sitting next to you and discuss. It's helpful for introverts to write out the answers that they have for discussion questions before asking people to report out. You can do a pair share, a triad share. You can do small group shares, large group shares. You can do an all group response by having them sign or signal or move in a way that indicates their response. It's also fun to do 4 corner activities. It's fun to do take a stand activities. You can have students write their responses on whiteboard paddles and then hold their paddles up when you give the signal. Tip 3, call on students. Ask questions that all students can answer. Don't make it a gotcha situation where stress goes up and students feel like they're going to be wrong. Give students the right to pass and give them the right to ask a consultant sitting next to them for their thoughts before they answer. This is a trauma-informed strategy and reduces stress and triggering situations for students who've experienced trauma. You can ask for volunteers to answer, or you can go in a particular order by a seating chart or alphabetical order. You can also use a fairness cup. This is a cup with craft sticks with a student name on each craft stick, and you pull a craft stick from the fairness cup and call on that student and keep the stick out of the jar until you've called on all of the students by drawing all of the sticks, and then put all of the sticks back in the jar and start over again. Or you can use a random name drawing tool, and your resource list gives you several of those. Tip 4, work in small groups. Decide on the optimum number for your group based on the activity that you're doing. Decide how to form the groups. You could allow self-selected groups, but oftentimes those are based on friendships or cliques. You could do random selection, or you could create groups for uniformity or for diversity, by ability, by learning style, or skill set. You could also definitely assign group roles so that every member of the small group has a job to do to help their group be successful. Then you explain the task and give the timeline, provide the materials, and monitor their work always. Your resource list in the blog post has several additional tips on how to work in small groups. Tip 5, gamify learning. Students love to play games, and this really makes learning fun. It can be a teacher-created game. It can be a student-created game. Always make sure the students' games are cooperative, so everyone wins, not competitive. If it is competitive, keep the stakes low and keep it friendly. You can use things like Jeopardy, Bingo, and Kahoot. Tip 6, manage behavior. You want to build a relationship with each student, keep a predictable format. This is a trauma-informed strategy also. You want to reward positive choices that students make and ignore negative behavior to extinguish it. If you have attention-seeking students, be sure to give them a pro-social job to do. There are also additional tips in the blog post about behavior bingo and paper chain, which are other behavior management ideas. Remember, what you pay attention to grows. And so you want to pay attention to positive behavior to encourage that to continue and ignore negative behavior when possible to extinguish it. Now it's time for you to plan to apply what you've learned during this video session. What student engagement strategies will you use?